the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. This is Business Rockstars.
This is Business Rockstars. I'm Mark Lack, and joining us is a special guest today. We've got Maritza Moreno in the house, and she's the co-founder of Optimized Life Project. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here, Mark. I'm excited for our conversation today.
I'm excited as well. We've been chatting off camera for a bunch of different subjects, but first let's dive in. What exactly does your company do?
So at the Optimized Life Project, we provide intensive one-to-one nutrition and lifestyle coaching. So our main focus is helping people to get measurable improvement in their weight or whatever health outcome that they're looking to get improvement in.
So we were talking, one of the big questions that we want to answer is, why do most people struggle to actually release weight and get in shape?
That's a really good question. And I have personally lived that struggle. I have lost 100 pounds in my lifetime and was able to keep that off. And then I had 2 pregnancies where I had to lose another 35, 40 pounds after each of those. And so when I, was going through my weight struggle, I can tell you with 100% honesty, part of it was just because of just the confusion with the massive amount of information.
There's too much info.
Oh my God. I think you get like at least a few million hits on Google if you Google weight loss.
Yeah, and who do you trust, right?
Right. Everybody seems to have an opinion. Some of them are rooted in science, and some of them, it just leaves me scratching my head like, what is he talking about?
Yeah. And now you have the expertise and the experience. So why don't you tell us about your background real quick? How did you get into this space? Did you always want to be an entrepreneur? Was this path destined for you, or did you just kind of stumble into it?
It's interesting. So my struggle with my nutrition and my weight, it happened when I was much younger. So we're talking about, I went through that when I was around 18, 19 years old. At the time, I was going to school for accountancy and business. And so I did know that I wanted to have something to do with business, but I wasn't sure. I was just in banking and lending at the time. And so that kind of, spoke to me when my mom said you have to go to college. But then after a while, I realized that was not going to be the path for me. And so I took a break, and it was kind of soul searching, where I was working as a server. I was taking my prereqs and everything. And then I saw the behavior of a lot of Americans. Like I worked at very popular restaurants, for example, like TGIF Fridays, right?
So you see people just loading up.
Oh, do you remember the Jack Daniel's Towers that they used to serve? It was a popular appetizer. More than one occasion, I would see a party of 2 come in and they'd order this thing. And not only would they polish it off, and it's got 4 layers there, but then they would eat at least like 60, 70% of their entree. And then, of course, they're saving room for adult beverages and dessert. And so when I saw that,
I'm like 3,000 calories right there.
At least. And I saw that and I identified, I'm like, I know that behavior. I've done that behavior before. I didn't understand it when I was younger, but then something finally clicked. And I'm like, you know what I suffered through wasn't in isolation with my weight issues and my eating disorder. And so I went to school to become a dietitian. And the whole entrepreneurship part, it kind of evolved over time. I tell people jokingly, I started my career backwards. I worked within the healthcare system as a clinical dietitian, working with like the sickest of the sick. And then I'm like, no, I don't think this is it. I'm pretty sure I could prevent some of this stuff if I'm given the opportunity. So then I worked outpatient, and it was a struggle with insurance and getting people to actually refer their patients to come to see me. And then I had a pretty good experience at a digital health company. That was the first time I got that exposure to, hey, this is what telehealth remote coaching actually looks like. And, all the while I had met my now husband, and he had a fitness studio. So on the side, I was kind of doing like one-to-one coaching already. And then it just hit me. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take my personal journey and what I learned about actually doing this in a sustainable way. And I'm going to take all of these missing pieces that I have learned about working for the healthcare system and, for large corporations. And I'm going to create my own program that really gives people what's at the root of their struggle, which is not only, fixing their knowledge deficit, but breaking down self-limiting beliefs and helping them cultivate a mindset for long-term sustainable success.
I love that. Let's talk about the mindset, because I think when most people think about like losing weight or getting in better shape, first thing they're doing is looking for the new blueprint. And usually they're leaving out the mindset part. And the mindset part, I believe personally, is probably what got them in the place they're in the first place. So talk about that. When you say you help people with the mindset and the limiting beliefs, what do you actually mean, and how are you helping people with that?
Well, for multiple people, it could look differently. Like some people, they grew up lower socioeconomic, and so they just were never exposed to what balanced nutrition looks like. A lot of them grew up on processed foods, right? Sometimes it's somebody like me where they struggled with their weight for a long time, and then they got into the yo-yo dieting thing. doing. And that in and of itself not only changes your physiology for, the negative, but it also messes with the human psychology. So you start to relate to perfectly healthy foods normal. I mean, how many people do you know that are afraid of carbohydrates, or they're afraid of, avocados because they have too much fat? And so
Yeah, yeah.
we didn't ask for, that change to happen in our mindset. So really fixing the way people look at food and realizing that the food itself was never the problem. It's the way that you behave around this particular food. And then some people, usually my gentlemen, their issues it relates to the way that they prioritize, things like their nutrition and self-care. I'm sure that you've met somebody in your life where they're like, oh, I'm too busy. I can't be bothered to eat. Let me just chug this Red Bull and just like hit the gas pedal with the gas tank
Yeah,
empty.
they just have to like eat because you have to. They're not thinking about it consciously about what they're putting in their body and how it helps them or hurts them.
Yeah, and it bites you in the butt because eventually your hunger catches up to you, and now you're like a closet, like late night binge eater because you have to consume something, and so it just makes you so much more impulsive. And so different people need different approaches, but really breaking down the self-limiting belief and helping them recognize that, hey, like you don't need a magic diet or like a pill or like this grueling workout regimen that is really hard to sustain long term. Like you need to identify your behaviors and understand how does it feed into the whole picture of what is happening with either your weight and or your health.
What about people who, we were talking about this off camera, they're not that focused on their diet because they think that if they just exercise enough, that they won't have to worry about what they eat. So what would you say to that person? They don't focus too much on diet. They just exercise their way through it
Well,
to burn the calories.
Yeah, for sure. Here's the thing, Mark. COVID, right? I mean, is much of a pain in the butt it was, and how, of a tragedy it was for many people who lost others. But it taught us a lot about human health and behavior. For the first time ever, every single gym on the planet shut down, and everybody got fat. And
the COVID-20 or the COVID-19, because then you get 19 or 20 pounds out of it.
Yeah. And I mean, as if, having poor health status wasn't already a risk factor, now you're gaining weight on top of it. And people are not realizing that, like, yeah, the exercise, while it makes us feel good and it's great for cardiovascular health, and of course, it has great benefits for your body composition. If you are focusing your energy on a part of the plan that really only brings in about 10% of the return on investments, like the problem was never really the exercise. It was that most Americans are using exercise as a way to try to mask an even bigger problem with the nutrition. And so I think that a lot of Americans have realized that, like, oh my God, like I can't just Netflix and chill every day and like, eat my favorite chips or whatever and not do anything with my nutrition because my gym closed down, and now this is why I can't fit in my pants.
So we were talking just right now about how that's, the pandemic and COVID's impacted people's lives and their health. But let's shift gears and talk about how does it actually impact business? Because I know a lot of businesses, not just in the gym industry, have been negatively impacted. So how was your business impacted? Was it good for your business because you guys were shifting online, or did it end up hurting your business for a while?
And again, I don't want to be insensitive when I say this, but at least for me and my husband, we chose to look at COVID as kind of a blessing, because about a year and a half before COVID officially happened, we had already started to transition into online coaching. Part of that was just because, like, again, I'm somebody who always looks for the limitations in what I want to do with my career and helping others. And even in the fitness studio, I would see, people who, yes, they want to make big changes, and yes, they want to form a coaching relationship and open up to me and really get like sound advice on their individual needs in their life. But then I also saw people who, like you said, they just are there to work out. And so I was slowly losing my passion over time because I want to help everybody. That's just my nature. And so when COVID happened, it was shocking, right? You had to really stop and be like, oh my God, the last 6 years of my life that I've been building is being taken from me. But in the same token, I'm like, you know what? I can pivot. I can move on. And having that experience in digital telehealth really helped me cement that I'm going to do this. And it has been a blessing because now I get to help people where they're at in the comfort of their home. They don't have to take off of work to come see me at the hospital. And they don't have to, always be accountable to meeting their gym appointments to be able to
driving there and all of that.
Yeah. So it's really helpful just to let people know, like, hey, wherever you are, I'm there for you.
So what does that actually look like? Do they open up their, iPad or laptop or computer or smartphone? How are you communicating with them? How are you giving them the coaching? What are some of the things that you work with people on? Lay that out for us.
So we have a platform, and this platform has a desktop site in addition to an app. And in the mobile app, it's really cool because I tell my clients there's an instant messaging feature. And whereas before, when I worked for the healthcare system, I would maybe get to see somebody once a month, at which point I have to figure out who is this person, what do they want to accomplish, what's the plan, and then maybe have 10, 15 minutes to give them hopefully a nutrition education they couldn't look up on Google themselves. Now it's like having a dietitian in your pocket. So you take out the app, and literally, if I'm not sleeping or on another call with another client and my client approaches me with a very important question, like, I want them to learn in the moment, because that's how you really learn. When you have the problem and you work with your coach to find the solution, and then you execute, you not only have, just added a new skill set to your repertoire, but you feel like a winner. And that's so important, because after years of yo-yo dieting, people have lost their self-efficacy. They just don't believe in themselves. And so really holding their hand, helping them break through some mindset issues and self-limiting beliefs. And then once they see that they can eat a much wider repertoire of foods than they believed was possible, and then the scale's still going down, I want to impart all of the knowledge that I have. That's one thing about the dieting industry that it just like breaks my heart, and probably what got me in trouble is that they'll just give you a small little piece so you can see some progress on the scale, but they don't want to give you the whole thing. What's that phrase in healthcare? A patient cured is a customer lost. And
Yeah, they actually lose business if they help you achieve your goal, which is ultimate health, and it's preventative. They don't want to help you with preventative because then, yeah, like you said, they lose the customer.
yeah, and I mean, what a horrible situation when taking care of yourself is like privileged knowledge. And so I'm like, no, work with me one-on-one. I'm going to hold your hand. I'm going to be there. We're going to have some one-to-one coaching intensive sessions, and we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty. But I want my clients to be making progress right out the gate. And then again, once those self-limiting beliefs are broken down, I'm going to teach you everything that I know. And I want you to have enough time at the opportunity for us to have that transfer of responsibilities. So now we've already figured out, okay, what does my schedule have to look like logistically for me to be able to shop and meal prep and cook for myself? What foods do I even like to eat? That's probably the number one question that gets people stuck instantly, because they're like, I don't know what to eat. And they're like,
Yeah,
just tell me what to eat. I'm like, no, we're going to talk about this, because
yeah. I can't always be there.
yeah, I don't want you to learn to eat like the best version of me. You have to learn to eat like the best version of you, not your girlfriend, not your wife, not your coworker,
Yeah.
not your boss. Like, what does your life look like?
So can you give us an example of maybe just like one or two success stories that come to mind? You can use an alias for the name if you want, but just like a quick little story, like, oh, this person came to us and boom, like you, was able to lose 100 pounds with my support. Do you have a quick little example you could share?
Oh yeah, I have a lot of them. My favorite client, one of my favorite clients, I don't want anybody else to think I'm choosing favorites, but her name is Mariana. And Mariana came to me at her highest adult weight. She was 457 pounds when I met her. And it was a sad thing, because, if somebody has gotten to that point in their life, like, there's a story. Something happened to that individual. It's not that the message that society sends us about, oh, you just don't care about yourself, or you don't want it bad enough, or so on and so forth.
Like you said, it's the mindset and the story.
Yeah, it's that blame game. And, she had a rough, beginning to life, and this is what it came to be. And she had gone to Medifast clinics, and she had been prescribed prescription drugs and thrown bariatric surgery. And she had even applied to be at The Biggest Loser, which they denied her because they said she was too much of a liability. And so after searching for 3 different fitness studios in the area, she came across my Facebook advertisement. We connected, and she entrusted me really with her goal and with her life. And since then, she's lost 160 pounds, and we're doing our first triathlon this year together. So I'm excited.
That's incredible. That's exciting that you're bringing somebody into a triathlon to do that with you and then accomplish that together.
Yeah.
So what is like the ultimate vision for your guys' company? I mean, it sounds exciting. You guys are making a huge difference in people's lives and literally changing people's lives. I mean, taking somebody from being, overweight, that impacts every area of their life. So you're actually changing lives. But I want to know, what is like the mission or the vision of the company? Where does it go from here?
Well, we are currently scaling up our company. We're looking for additional registered dietitians or just other health and fitness professionals that have the background and the education that we're looking for, because we don't just deal with weight loss. We help people get off their diabetes medications, improve their cardiac risk profile, all of that stuff. And so we're scaling currently, but my vision is that by the end of the year, we've helped at least another 300 people not only get the measurable progress in their health or weight that they're looking for, but really helping them just cement a healthier, more inclusive relationship with food, because all of this yo-yo dieting, like I'm sure you read on the news that like it's probably just as bad or more dangerous than never having lost the weight at all, because it's very stressful on the body when you do that to yourself.
So what is yo-yo dieting, just for anybody who's like, I heard her say that a few times and I'm not quite familiar with the acronym or the term. What is yo-yo dieting?
That's a good question, because a lot of people, they don't want to identify themselves with that because it sounds bad, doesn't it? Or
Yeah.
another one
People listening might be doing yo-yo dieting, but they're not even familiar with the label or the term. So what is the quick definition?
So yo-yo dieting is when you are really thinking in black and white terms, right? And it's not the consumer's fault, right? Because we've been thrown these fad diets, so many since like the 1980s, we've been thrown fad diet after fad diet. And so when people go from behaviors that are definitely not healthful, meaning they're not using moderation, they don't have balance, the nutrients are not providing the building blocks for health. So they'll go from here, and because the
So you're saying like jumping from keto to vegan to this, all those different types of like quote unquote diets?
Yeah, they'll swing violently back and forth between definitely not being on a diet and eating the wrong things and definitely the wrong portions to being overly restrictive. And, keto diet, I've programmed keto diets for people with epilepsy. There are therapeutic uses for it, but when it comes to weight loss, not only does it produce unproductive weight loss, but again, it changes your perception of what is good and bad food. And when you look at the weight loss research, that's a concept that we call rigid dieting. And when somebody is a rigid dieter that lives off of those food rules, the good and the bad, then they tend to not be able to be successful in challenging nutrition situations. Like when you want to take your girlfriend out on a date, you make the wrong choices. And if you made 5 steps of progress that week, because of that one day, now you're like 3 or 4 steps in the rear. Or, you can't do like company functions without going overboard. So that constant back and forth and that all or nothing mentality, like I already messed up, I'm just going to keep going till Monday.
Yeah.
It's like tripping and, scuffing your face and then giving yourself a rib shot while you're down there. Like, no, stop thinking like that.
So what about cheat meals? What are your thoughts on that? I know that's a big thing in the health space. They're like, I'm going to work super hard all week and be on point, and then I get to have my cheat meal. Like Dwayne Johnson, right? He's like always posts his cheat meal on social media every Sunday or whatever.
Oh my God, that guy works out so much. Probably he
doesn't matter what
he doesn't
he
have
eats.
to worry about
And he has
it.
the world's best team surrounding him.
And he's got his own personal dietitian and
Exactly.
chef and all that stuff.
But what are your thoughts on cheat meals for people which kind of sounds like down the path of what we were just talking about?
Yeah. I mean, why has it got to be a cheat meal though? Like
the label of cheat meal, right?
Like, why can't you just learn about your body and learn to communicate with your body's needs and understand that, if I want to fit in a pizza on a Friday, like I can do that. Let me teach you how to arrange the rest of your day such that most of the nutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, the fibers, the protein, we're going to meet that during that part of the day. And I'm going to show you how we can finagle it so you're still going to make progress that week.
Now, are you suggesting the cauliflower crust, non-dairy cheese pizza, or are you still saying you can get the regular?
I'm from Chicago. Like, don't
so you get the
adulter
deep dish.
pizza. I do like pizza, and like you can't eat more than a slice of Chicago.
You were
deep
using
dish.
pizza because that's your thing.
Oh my God, don't.
But everybody likes pizza.
Well, I mean, even that cauliflower rice. Like, I can't tell you how many people I've met. Like, I have, my nail tech. She's Asian American. And she was freaking out to me because she was saying, well, her husband is American. And he's like, well, you can't have so much rice. That's why you have weight issues. And she's like, no, I lived in Thailand before and, I was very thin. It can't be possibly the rice. And so just to make generalizations like that, it doesn't apply to the whole population. We have such a variety of different cultures, and a lot of the information that we're being handed is not being presented where it's representative of different people and supporting the way that they actually eat. If you hand anybody a plan that is very foreign to them, not only is it going to be hard to adapt because these are foods that they don't eat, or you're removing so much of what they do eat, but they're definitely not going to be able to achieve lifestyle permanence. And really, that's what's mattering. Like, I don't care what you look like in 90 days. Show me day 900 and you have my respect.
Yeah, so it's like anything, I feel like, in life, health, relationships, business. It's not just about the short term. It's about, is it sustainable? Mm-hmm. Can you actually sustain eating this way, looking this way, feeling this way? And that's what you're saying, is you want to help people create this sustainable so that they have the body, the mind, the energy for their life, not just for 90 days and then throw it all away and jump onto a new yo-yo diet. So I want to know, as we shift gears to another subject, is there a specific type of person that you guys work with who should be going to your website, which we'll give them, towards the end of this? Or is it really just anybody who's looking to feel better and really get their body and their mind and their energy on point, like you guys help them with?
So we work with men as well. We have a lot of men that are part of our success stories, but predominantly who's affected by yo-yo dieting the most is women. And so most of the clients that we have tend to be between the ages of like 30 and 55. And that demographic is so important because those are the people that lived through the 80s, 90s, 2000 and plus dieting era. And so they've been most impacted by this mixed messaging. And that's why they're struggling right
They
now
already
with their weight.
tried Jenny Craig, and they already tried all the other ones.
Yeah. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I know those can help some people, but in the end, like, is it actually teaching you what you need to know to be self-sustainable?
Or is it teaching you to keep buying their subscription?
Exactly. Like, okay, I don't want to pick on Weight Watchers, but my mom tried and failed it many times, so I guess I'm going to. But like, especially now they have the app
They
and you're
count their points and all that
like,
stuff.
what's up with the points? Like,
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
heard that.
I had somebody on the Weight Watchers thing that I was with, and it was like a friend of a friend, and they were like, "Oh, I can eat this junk food thing. It's only 18 points or whatever." And I was like,
Yeah.
"What?"
It
It was
teaches
so
them.
stupid. I was like, "So you eat anything you want as long as it's within the points." I was like, "I don't think you're gonna lose weight," and they didn't. So
Well, yeah, because I've heard that it teaches me how to cheat smarter, and I've heard the positive. Well, at least
just
it.
count your cheating.
You're right, just count your cheating. And then I told, or other people have told me that at least it made me focus on portion sizes. But I told them, do you know what this particular food is doing for you and how it impacts you and how it makes you feel or how it doesn't, allow you to feel at your best? And I don't want people to just be like, oh, spend some time with me. And then, I lost the weight, but like I'm going to go regain it when I go on vacation. Like, I want you to understand the hows and the whys of why we do these things for our body and really learn to respect your body. So I tell people, I don't want you to learn how to diet and work out harder. I want you to learn how to live your life smarter.
That's a powerful frame. So are you teaching people like, here's what you should go get at the grocery store, meal prepping if they need to? It sounds very custom tailored.
It is very custom. And that's another thing I tell people, if you're going to sign up with a coach or another program and they don't ask you three simple questions like, hey, what do you like to eat? How much time do you have to cook? And do you have a food budget? If they don't ask you those questions, what you're about to receive is cookie cutter and a one size fits all approach, which is not how any of us are or how we live. We all have such different backgrounds. And so there's a really in-depth conversation for me or another coach to understand, okay, what does the logistics of your life look like? I want to know exactly what you're doing every single day because outside of the nutrition and outside of the fitness, like there's many other self-care habits that we have a lot of science to show why they're important. And we're going to go through each of them and I'm going to ask you the question. Are you living your life with this habit in a way that's helping the process or is it directly hindering the process? Because if it's hindering the process, we need to find some way to optimize this and, something that's going to make your life flow and fit naturally versus trying to force a bunch of unnatural stuff. And then that's how we're going to build the system of self-care. And when my clients learn to rely on this system of self-care, even when life, the wind changes direction on them, they're able to be more resilient because they're taking care of themselves. They're refilling their cup, which is a message that you don't hear a lot in America. It's always do for others, do this, do that. You got to do it for your work. But what about your kids? Like, no, you're never going to be the best version for anybody else unless you're the best version for you.
I love that. And that's powerful because I feel like, especially the women out there who do so much for all of us, they definitely, and everybody does, need to spend more time on self-care. But the women out there, I love that you're saying that because self-care is so special. So I want to know, I'm just curious personally, and I think it'll be insightful for people listening. What is advice that you would give to your younger self? Back when you shared your story with us about how you were, you lost 100 pounds. So like what advice, if that person was in the room with us, what would you tell them? What quick little pieces of advice would be, a game changer?
My younger self had a lot of self-worth and self-acceptance. I really did judge myself by a number on the scale. And so I guess the first thing I would tell people is really dig deep and understand, why am I asking my body to lose weight? The process of weight loss is inherently stressful at a biological level. And so one, you want to go about it the right way. You don't want to start, beating your body because your body will win. Its number one job is to survive. And so just to really ask yourself, like, am I doing this because I want a summer body or I just want to look good for a wedding or what have you? Or am I doing this because what I learn about myself during this process is going to make me a better person in every aspect of my life, not just my health? And so once you get that down, you'll probably look back into your past and you'll understand why the little normal life stressors threw you off because it wasn't really that important or impactful goal to begin with. Next, I would tell people to really focus on, okay, when I'm thinking about a certain nutrition or exercise related approach to lose weight or improve my health, can you see yourself doing that for the long term? Because if you can't see yourself doing that 6 months to a year from now because, physically it's too demanding, the exercise, or you can't fit it into the logistics of your day-to-day schedule without sacrificing your personal or your family time, then don't get started, because there is definitely other ways to go about this, and you should not sacrifice bits and pieces of your life, again, for that number on the scale. And then lastly, just be kind to yourself. It is definitely an endurance sport, lifestyle and health improvements. It's not a sprint like people treat it. And, because I guess people are so emotional about where they find themselves with their health or their weight, that's why we opt for the quick fixes, because it really stinks to stop and realize that you've been holding yourself back and you are the reason why you are not ultimately happy. I know some people have a lot of complicated factors that contribute to their health or weight issue, but that's why we want to help you figure that out and, just take away the shame and the blame. You may not be fully responsible for what caused your health issue to manifest, but now that you know better, you have to take the reins and really make sure that you get your life back on track so you can be the best person.
I love it. That's some powerful advice. So for people listening, that is incredible. And I want to get a strong, powerful, and also tough question as our last one. There's so many people in the health and wellness space. There's so many companies. There's so many dietitians and experts and, health gurus. What makes you guys different? What makes you better? Why should anybody listening right now who's resonating with you, your story, and what you might be able to support them with, why should they listen to you and choose you over all the other options out there?
Well, part of it is because this is my craft. I went to school to study this. I'm a registered dietitian and a certified diabetes educator. And a lot of people don't realize that, there's many, many people out there in the health and fitness industry that call themselves nutritionists, but it's not regulated in every state. And the states that it is, it's a very loose term. And so do you have an understanding of, okay, not only do I want to get the weight off, but I want that weight loss to produce real health. Just because you're thin doesn't mean that you're healthy. Just because you're all big and muscular doesn't mean that you're healthy. And so does this person have your best interests at heart? And do they have the full scope of knowledge about, hey, how do I prevent that diabetes that runs strong in my bloodline? Or, hey, if I have irritable bowel syndrome, how do I do this where it's going to produce no harm? That's the Hippocratical oath, first do no harm. Or if I am one of the people that are higher risk to develop what we call disordered eating, does this coach know enough to recognize that in me and not take me down a rabbit hole of additional restriction, which is exactly what I don't need? And so other people that have taken maybe 3-month online nutrition courses, great. I respect the fact that you went to go get that knowledge. But between, undergrad and graduate school and my supervised internship and then my national board exam, not only can I help you lose the weight, but again, I'm going to protect all aspects of your health and make sure that physically, functionally, you're going to be able to enjoy the quality of life that's most important to you. And then I tell people, I know the mental and emotional side of this personally. All the coaches that I hire, they have to understand that mental, emotional connection to food. I'm open to people that have never had to go through this themselves, right? Not everybody struggles with their weight, but I need practitioners working for my company that they're willing to understand that most people are the experts in their own life. And so if you're a coach that's willing to listen and help deconstruct what happened and help people move forward, that's what most people need. And that's what I'm able to provide between my personal and my professional experience.
I love it. So for the men and women listening right now, if they want to optimize their health and their life in a sustainable way, then they need to reach out to you. So where can they do that? Is there a website or place that you want to send people to now?
Yeah, you can go to www.optimizedlifeproject.com. I kept it simple for everybody.
I love it. Maritza Moreno in the house. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you for coming on the show. And I'm Mark Lack. And if you guys want to watch more episodes like this one, head over to businessrockstars.com.